On top, Artem Petrov and Braden Eves, the two exclusive Autosport drivers, quickest earlier today in practice. But we've seen great speed out of Christian Rasmussen. Eric, he comes in as the point leader, coming off the win in the Freedom 90 at Lucas Oil Raceway. We've just got an unbelievably deep level of talent in Indy Pro 2000 this year. 12 drivers. We started with 14 or 15 at one point. We're now down to 12 as a couple of drivers have pulled out of the season. But the championship chase will not change at all as we got ourselves a really, really good battle between, as I said, Christian Rasmussen on top. You've got Braden Eves right in there. And maybe one of the most impressive drivers, just 16 years of age, Rhys Gold, the rookie, has been punching above his weight class in his first season here in Indy Pro 2000. A couple of pole positions over the last number of weekends, was the quickest driver as well. Pulled out a magic lap on lap 2 qualifying for the Freedom 90 at Lucas Oil Raceway. And I think that he could be looking for a race win here somewhere down the line. 20-minute session for drivers in the Indy Pro 2000 category. That does kind of put into question whether or not you're going to be able to make a tire change midway through. The laps, of course, so long here at Road America, 4 miles in length, 14 turns. Lap times that we saw in the practice session earlier today at 2:05.3. So, you know, you get that tire change. You got the big, long out lap before you even trip the beam for the first time to get back on the timing scene. So we'll see whether or not anybody makes a change. Only 3 sets of tires, fresh tires for the drivers over the 5 sessions as well. Everybody in the paddock using their scuffed carryover tires from yesterday's open test session in the opening practice today. So, again, this will be the first time, Eric. Fresh tires, fresh Coopers all around. Time to go qualifying to see who's going to start on pole for race 1.
And it'll be interesting to see the strategy here. As Aaron Telitz mentioned during Indy Lights practice, do you go out, maybe bank a lap or two, get some good times in, bank it, come in, save some tires, and then maybe go out again late in the session so you're not burning as much rubber off the tires?
Well, and that's up to the driver, right? And not so much up to the driver strategy-wise or determination-wise, but they've got to go and do it. If they're saying, hey, listen, we're going to go 2 laps, you're going to get these things bedded in a bit. Aaron did talk about the fact that the tire's falling off a little quicker than we had earlier. So if you can get, a 3-lap shot in and really turn a strong lap, you come back in, you grab those tires you just used, scuffed in a couple laps. Those are your race tires for tomorrow. Then, as you said, later on in the session, maybe you take one of those fresh sets and really get at it while the fuel load's a little lower.
He also did say the tires were rubbery. So
we should throw him under the bus now. We didn't do that. Those of you who potentially listened to the Indy Lights broadcast that we had on Sirius 209 as well, of course, around the racetrack as well. Aaron, I thought he did a tremendous job, but he was beating himself up pretty good, telling us that the Firestone tires were quite rubbery. I wasn't sure if they were more rubbery or less rubbery than the Coopers. So,
and he was beating himself up after we went off mic. So we told him we
should have pounced on him right there.
We should have. Yeah.
That would have been good. Yeah, but Aaron did a tremendous job. And listen, when
really insightful, I thought. I thought he was really insightful, coming from obviously the background of being in the Road to Indy, but being in sports cars now, there's a little bit of separation from himself from the series. But I thought he was really insightful in kind of the strategy and the playbook, so to speak.
Yeah, obviously a tremendous speaker outside the race car too, right? A very good, curious young man, and of course, married now, new father coming up, as his wife Maggie is expecting a baby boy coming up. But you got to think about Road America being kind of his home racetrack as well. Really able to talk about the different segments of the racetrack. Also, he's run USF 2000, Indy Pro, and Indy Lights here, so he has a good feel for all levels of the Road to Indy. And what he's never driven this car though. Well, in a race, I think he's done some testing before in the PM18 from Tatis, but when he won his championship, it was the old Pro Formula Mazda car. All right, let's see as the times start coming in here for the drivers in Indy Pro 2000. Again, we have essentially a full run-through for you here over the next couple of hours. We've got Indy Pro 2000 qualifying for race 1. We've got Indy Lights qualifying for race 1, and then qualifying 2 for UFF F2000 set to go at 3:15. Those of you tuning in on the Road to Indy TV app, my name's Rob Howden, joined by Eric Mueller. Greg Creamer in the booth as well. We'll have him on later this weekend to help bring you the play-by-play action. Just getting set to go with things here in Indy Pro, and we'll find out which drivers kind of step it up. Exclusive Autosport looked really good in the practice session, Eric, and I talked to team owner Michael Duncalf a little bit to kind of get his input whether or not he thought that was going to transition into him potentially being able to go quick as well in the qualifying, because just because you went fast on those leftover tires, those carryover tires, doesn't really mean you're going to stand on top when qualifying's all said and done.
Well, we talk about the transition quite a bit. I mean, you could be going completely the wrong way on your adjustments, too. You could be dialing into a tire that's maybe 3 or 4 seconds on the fall off, right? And then all of a sudden you bolt new tires on, and the track is completely different. It's 20 degrees ambient temperature warmer. It's 30 degrees warmer track temperature ambient, on the surface of the track itself. You've completely dialed yourself out in the end of that practice session. So you've got to be kind of mindful of that in planning ahead here in the qualifying session.
Well, the carryover tires will give the drivers a good feel for what the car's going to be like when the tires do start to fall off a little more. Now with the fresh rubber, obviously going to change things a bit. 13 and a half minutes remaining. Looks like I'm not getting any live timing up here right now. It's not on the app either, so we're not able to give you any of the live timing at this point here. Once that does update, we'll try to fill you in the best we can. Eric will try to spin through the monitors that we have available here in the PA, see if we can't give you top times right now. Indeed, there we go. We'll work off the board here now. James Rowe Jr. for Turn 3 Motorsport up top of the TopCon Trintec number 3 machine. 204.943 for James Rowe, the Irishman. Rhys Gold, as I mentioned before, 16 years of age, first year in Indy Pro 2000 with Juncos Racing. First driver to actually announce his signing last year. I think we were at New Jersey, and they had already announced that he was going to Juncos for this year. His teammate Manuel Suleiman from Mexico now in third. Christian Rasmussen, reigning USF 2000 champion. Staying with Jay Howard Driver Development, the Road to Indy Scholarship colors, the number 1 machine P4. Jacob Abel has had a really good weekend so far. Strong yesterday in the test, pretty good earlier today as well. Abel in the number 51 out of Kentucky. Braden Eves 6th, Kiffin Simpson 7th, Wyatt Prokachik 8th, Artem Petrov 9th, Hunter McElray in 10th, Hunter Yaney in 11th, and Jack William Miller in 12th. Dozen drivers in Indy Pro 2000. But far too early in the session really even to talk too much about lap times, because as the fuel comes down, drivers are going to get themselves where they need to be on track, try to get that little bit of a toe that they want, and we'll see what happens later in the run.
It is about 10 degrees warmer total from the 76 degrees earlier this morning, now 84 degrees ambient, 108.9 degree track temperature here, which is considerably warmer than this morning. Track was actually moist at 8 o'clock yet this morning. So it was considerably lower, about 25 degrees warmer now on the road itself. And that's going to play into these tires coming up to optimum temperature. Sometimes tires will actually handle better, and these Cooper tires are no stranger to that. They'll actually work better with the warmer track temperature.
Oh, indeed. And what I love about this is that now you get the engineers, all the mechanics going back to the notes from last year, the year before, trying to figure out where they were. And talking to one of the Indy Lights engineers, Yancey Diatalevi, he said this is probably one of the warmest weekends we've had here in late June at Road America. Normally, I think we're in the 70s. I don't know that we've been into the mid-80s. So this is kind of uncharted territory with this new race car, this PM18 that we debuted a number of years ago. They just don't have the data for temperatures this hot, Eric.
And traditionally, we've had a lot cooler weather throughout the month of June. We really don't get into this 80-degree, 90-degree weather until mid-July into August. And it's been an incredibly warm later half of May into June. It's been incredibly warm, very dry here as well, which is a little bit surprising, but it hasn't been nearly as humid. And this is really the first kind of few days that we've had high humidity in the area as well.
So I think that what that's going to mean is when I'm making my sprint from pit lane and the driver introductions up here to the booth, we're going to need to have some oxygen when I get here. And if it's Greg and I'm going to have to inform Greg that he's going to have to probably carry it for the first lap or two, because I have a sneaking feeling I'm getting older every year, Greg, and the run from pit lane introductions to Eric likes to make fun of me that I've run over here and I have no air. It could be tougher.
Well, we'll have an IV drip ready for you, too, to make sure you're properly hydrated.
I appreciate that. Eric,
that brings up a really sore subject from last
I
weekend.
bet it does.
that's true.
Talk about hydrated. Be drinking a lot of water, buddy.
I am, yeah.
We're very lucky to have Eric Mueller with us here this weekend. Kidney stone issues earlier. Had to make a pit stop, an uncomfortable one, but
About 4.5 hours in the local ER last Saturday during a motorcycle
and
weekend.
pit
Yeah,
being
we're
the
good.
operative word.
that's very true.
But yeah, IV is a sensitive subject there, Doug.
That's it. Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. I went, I may not have anybody to work with at Road America, but good to have him here, and of course Greg as well. A pleasure to be able to work with Greg Kramer later on this weekend as well, and of course this session as well. And not surprising what we saw, Eric. You mentioned it. We've got drivers pitting. Couple laps, 3 laps, coming in, making the change to fresh tires. You had to do it early. You can't do a staggered balance run of 5 laps and 5 laps. If you're going to do it, you got to do it early, because with a 20-minute session, there's just no time.
That brings up real quick a question here. When you're doing a tire change, then you've got to go out. Then you've got to find out if the pressures are right for the temperatures. So there's a little bit of risk with that strategy too, isn't there?
Yeah, and especially we keep talking about, harping on it. It's such a long lap to get around. It's literally almost 6 minutes, probably 5 minutes to get your first real lap, official lap in the book. So that's why it's so tight. We're down to 8 minutes remaining. We got a bunch of drivers in pit lane already. James Rowe Jr. on top, 204.9436. His fast lap, about a tenth of a second quicker than Rhys Gold and Manuel Suleiman. Interesting to me is guys further down the order, like a Braden Eves and an Artem Petrov, who were at the top of the charts in the practice session earlier today.
Well, this is also one of those sessions where everybody's got their banker lap in now. Now's when you're putting on the fresh tires. Now's where you really don't want that red flag.
No, please. I want to run all the way to the very end. Exactly that. Now, again, looks like everybody has been able to get the banker in. We'll see how many drivers getting back out and on time. Again, the pit stops here, for those of you around the racetrack, we don't have IndyCar style, rapid pit stops. It's a couple of guys with the quick jacks get the rear done, then they get the front done. So a lot longer time to get the tires changed on these race cars, and that means you're wasting more time with that 20-minute session. James Rowe Jr. would more than love to be on top. It's been a interesting rookie year for James, running for Turn 3 Motorsports, a single-car effort there. Turn 3 with a couple of cars in USF 2000 this year with Dylan Christie and Josh Green. But James Rowe getting a chance to run the full season, put together a great sponsorship package. We've got a bunch of his sponsor guests from TopCon here this weekend as well. Trintech, another one of his sponsors. And looking good right now, a tenth of a second ahead of Rhys Gold. But again, with 7 minutes remaining and a number of drivers on track with fresh Cooper tires, fuel loads going down, expect to see the time start to fall.
Well, and we talked about Rhys Gold. Gold had that off in 14 earlier in that practice session, so that's a good comeback. Car is solid here. Really just kind of nosed it into the tires in 14. Was able to get it righted and drove back to pit lane with the car, just missing the front wing on that nose cone. But that's obviously a problem that you're going to want to really try to avoid here in this final couple of minutes of this qualifying session.
Jack William Miller laying down his best last time by, a 2:05.490. Immediately pulled into pit lane to driver's right, coming out of 14. So Jack William Miller will come to the attention of his crew. Man, 6:28 to go. I don't know if Miller will be able to get tires on.
Look at the lap by Abel to the top.
Jacob Abel up to P1 in the number 51, the Abel Motorsports driver. Parker Thompson, driver coach for Abel, and he has really dialed things in, 2:04.659. Times are going to continue to fall now, though. No doubt about that. We got the fresh tires on. Drivers going. I think Abel was one of the first guys to come into pit lane. Rhys Gold, Manuel Suleiman, Christian Rasmussen, Jack William Miller, and Kiffin Simpson, all still in pit lane with less than 6 minutes remaining.
That's a huge risk, isn't it?
Yeah, my wonder, too, is how many guys are going to hold on for fresh tires in the race as well, knowing that the tires fall off as they have. Braden Eves and Artem Petrov still out on the racetrack, 7th and 9th, respectively. As I said, they were the quickest drivers, both turning 2:05.3s. Right now, Eves at 2:05.5, Petrov at 2:05.6, so a couple of tenths of a second off what they did. Jacob Abel's fastest lap was at 2:05.8. He's gone 1.2 seconds faster with the fresh rubber. Not quite sure what is going to happen yet with Eves and Petrov, looking to see if they dial things back in. There's Jack William Miller back out, a pretty quick pit stop for them. They got 5 minutes, so there's that 5 minutes we talked about, Eric. Is he going to get, maybe one, maybe 2 laps? Does he sneak past the line?
One flyer, yeah. It really depends on how hard he hustles cold tires out.
Yeah, exactly that. Across the line comes our exclusive auto sports drivers in both Eves and Petrov. Braden Eves improving up with a 205.095. Eves now to 5th. Petrov still out there. Only one driver in pit lane right now, and he is gone. Rhys Gold has been released. They've got new rubber as well. So here's your final 4.5 minutes, guys. As everybody's out on the racetrack. If anybody comes into pit lane now, they're going to park it. That'll be it. So out on track, ready to go, and Jacob Abel in a place we have not seen him yet this year. That's P1 late in the session. 204.659 for Jacob Abel, the driver in the number 51 machine. And Abel out of Louisville, Kentucky, in the Abel Construction Bell Helmets machine. See if he can hold on to it. A couple guys that have been further down the order, Abel and Rowe, 1 and 2. What an interesting front row that would be.
Well, McElray and Petrov will be the first 2 cars back across the stripe. McElray kind of struggling a little bit on the struggle bus in 11th right now at 206.035. But again, likely still a banker lap on the carryover. Was on pit lane and the first one across the stripe here with less than 4.5 minutes to go, now less than 4 minutes to go. So McElray will be the first person across the stripe with tires that we'll see. So once he gets to the line, then we'll start seeing some of these fast laps start to get laid down on the Flyers.
I was going to say, there's a lot yet to come, obviously, in these last few minutes, but that's an unheard of margin, over a quarter of a second, first to second in this category.
Tough to see McElroy back there. He had a really rough opening start to the season. We started the season last year, within the COVID-19 pandemic here at Road America, and I don't think he finished either race. He finished, I think, 14th in both races. So 11th right now, especially at the home of Pabst Racing. This is a place where they would want to do really well, and McElroy struggling.
This track was not kind to him in the doubleheader weekend last year.
Yeah, it was not at all, indeed. And his teammate Colin Kaminsky started the season with him, but elected to end that program, so it's a single-car operation as well. So working with just the one little bit of data. Abel, Rowe, Gold, Eves, Suleiman. Your top 5 as Eves has improved now up to 4th spot, 205.060. I'll be very interested in hitting the paddock tonight to find out who's potentially going with just one set of tires here, trying to keep those other fresh sets. Who came in, maybe did those first couple laps, as you said. Because you got to think, if you put that heat cycle on a tire too, it oftentimes lasts a bit longer when you bring it back out. So a short run there of 2-3 laps to start qualifying, put down a good lap, and you can potentially turn around and have those tires for your race. Artem Petrov with a big move. 204.935 Petrov to P2.
And McElray did improve about a second, but still mired back in that 10th spot. But Petrov was the second car with tires. We're going to start seeing those laps now kind of come through. Abel through that time was not faster, actually 3 seconds off his time. So Abel a little bit slower on the outlap.
Abel, Petrov, Rowe, Gold, and Eves, top 5. Artem Petrov, who was P1, I believe. Yeah, he was 205.362. Quickest in the morning practice session. Braden Eves was 2nd. Rhys Gold was 3rd. Gold right in the fight as well. James Rowe Jr. in the Turn 3 Motorsports number 3, holding on to P3.
I'll tell you, you talk about this category and its competitiveness. Look at the margins from 2nd to 3rd, 77 one-thousandths of a second, and even closer still between Gold to Eves. I mean, this series is so close.
It's unbelievable. You're right. Here goes Manuel Suleiman now to the top of the charts in the Juncos Racing number 22, quickest in the second practice, the open test session yesterday, and Suleiman out of the top. Fuel load starting to come down. A minute to go. All these drivers trying to see if they can't scoot past the timing stripe on the entry to turn number 14. Get that one more lap in.
Rasmussen jumps up to 3rd.
Wow. Suleiman, Abel, Rasmussen, Petrov, and Rowe. Eves was 4th. He's now 8th. Here comes Rhys Gold to 3rd.
What a talent he is.
No doubt about it. Just 16 years of age. So much growth potential still there for young Rhys Gold out of Miami, Florida. Suleiman over a 10th ahead of Jacob Abel. 30 seconds to go. Wait for it. It's almost like the first 15 minutes of commentary is just a waste. We're filling to get to the last 5 minutes. This last lap will be a good one. Let's see who's got it.
Petrov.
Yeah, Petrov back to 2nd. Eves mired down in 8th. Braden's got to lay one down. He's 2nd in points behind Rasmussen coming in. He needs a good starting spot here. 7, 5, 4, 3, 2-1. That will be it here for qualifying for Indy Pro 2000.
Theoretically, Abel did get across the line. He's in third right now. If he's got enough good left in the tires, Abel could threat, but I don't know necessarily he's going to have a chance to get there. His optimum is a 2:04.38, which if he puts together the absolute perfect lap, maybe it's a chance. But right now, we're not seeing segment 2 and segment 3 times like we are in segment 1.
So this is it. Final run down to 14, and to come back in to get to the stripe, Manuel Suleiman with the provisional pole right now. Time has run out, 2:04.5236, the fast time for Manuel Suleiman. For Junkos Racing, looking to get that bonus point for pole. Artem Petrov second, Jacob Abel third. Suleiman does not go any faster. Gold fourth, Rasmussen fifth, Rose sixth, Simpson seventh, Eves eighth, Miller, McElray, Prokachik, and Yaney. Prokachik and Suleiman both done their session. They've seen the checker. So has Rasmussen. He does not go any faster. Eves back in 8th position. Jack William Miller to P4. The driver out of Carmel, Indiana goes P4 in the Miller Vinatieri Motorsports number 40. He'll drop to 5th as Gold improves. Jacob Abel, though, still holding on to P3. That's the best qualifying effort we've seen out of Jabel here. Impressive for Jacob. 2:04.659. Just a thousandth of a second between Petrov and Abel. Waiting for the remainder of the guys to come through to cap off this lap. Still a couple drivers down in the kettle bottoms. A couple coming out of Canada corner right now. So still 4 or 5 drivers to come. Suleiman 2:04.5. Provisional pole over a tenth faster than Petrov. Surprising, Eves not able to go any quicker. McElray 10th. Petrov second. He does not go faster. Suleiman just waiting for the last couple of bullets in the gun here.
Looks like they both pitted.
I think that's no. We got a couple more drivers just coming through the line right now to cap things off.
Yeah, Abel just crossed, did not do any better. Still
All
a
right.
2:04.6.
That looks to be it. Manuel Suleiman for Junkos Racing, the number 22 at 2:04.523. Just over a tenth quicker than Artem Petrov and Jacob Abel. Abel just a thousandth of a second behind Petrov. And how about Gold, just 2,000ths of a second behind Abel. So literally 32 ten-thousandths of a second separating second, third, and fourth. Jack William Miller, strong qualifying effort, P5. Christian Rasmussen, 6th. James Rowe Jr., 7th. Kiffin Simpson, 8th. I don't know that Braden Eves pitted and put on fresh tires. I'm not sure. This will be interesting. I can't wait to find out where we're sitting up for tires right now. McElray in 10th, Prokachik in 11th spot, and Hunter Yaney rounding out the 12 drivers. 1.3 seconds separating the entire field.
So there is an option if you're getting 3 new sets, right, and you elect to do carryovers this entire qualifying session. That gives you Q2 with fresh tires.
But you can't have the carryovers. You only have the carryovers for the practice session.
Right, but in this situation,
Oh, you're saying could he actually go the tires again?
Right. So in that Q2, he runs the qualifying tires, sets a banker lap with the new tires, parks it, starts race 2 on basically a scuff set.
That's a definite possibility for sure. There's going to be a lot of strategy in the paddock, something that I'm going to find out about, Greg.
Well, and on that point just a little bit, qualifying is always important, obviously the point for pole certainly, but this is a track that's got lots of passing opportunities, so you maybe risk a little bit more here knowing you can get to the front as opposed to, say, a Barber or someplace like that that's really difficult to pass on. So you can roll the dice a bit here.
That's a risk-reward thing that we're talking about in the Indy Lights coverage earlier, that in this situation, Road America, we've seen 7th and 8th place cars win races. It's as incredibly valuable as that point is in the championship. Starting up front is important, but you can maneuver a race car around this place.
Of all the racetracks that Indy Pro 2000 comes to, this is the one where you could win from 6th or 7th or 8th, because you can actually number one, the start's going to be wild. You know you're going to be 2-3 wide down into turn number 1. Guys with a lot of cojones can make a move and get into turn number 1 and get a couple spots. at a place like St. Pete, qualifying so crucial. Barber so hard to pass. Mid-Ohio, we're there twice, and qualifying's key because it's one of the hardest places to pass. Really, only one corner to pass on in turn number 4. So this is a racetrack that you could have some different strategy, potentially hold on to tires, because obviously all the big points coming in the races. If you hold on to rubber and you're the guy whose tires aren't going to fall off midway through the race, maybe have a little bit longer. That's an opportunity to win.
And the other question I have here, this place is hugely hard on fuel consumption. And how close are the margins do they run here in these races?
Yeah, that's up to the engineer, right? What
Yeah.
do you do? How close do you want to be?
Exactly.
How close? And
the less fuel, the lighter the car.
And that's it.
So.
And one of the things about, we normally, one of the great things about our series, USF 2000, Indy Pro, Indy Lights, are a lot of times we go green to checker.
Yeah.
We got such a high quality level of drivers here. We're not mired by a lot of yellows. Occasionally at this track, yeah, we do get some yellows, but you could go green to checker for sure. Fuel wouldn't be an issue at all at that point. But there you go, folks. Indy Pro 2000. Manuel Suleiman, the young Mexican driver for Juncos Racing. He'll be very, very happy with that. Suleiman comes in 6th place in points, 90 points back. So to be able to get that one, put yourself on the pole, potential to get a 30 points for a race win. This could be maybe the start of a mounting of a challenge for Suleiman to get himself back into the championship discussion. Again, Suleiman, Petrov, Abel, Gold, and Miller of the Fast Five in qualifying for Indy Pro 2000. We're still a ways away. 2:30 scheduled start time. Indy Lights qualifying as we continue our run through the road to Indy.
At TopCon, we know a thing or two about a smooth surface. Roads and highways, piece of cake. Airports, let's just say it'll be the smoothest landing you've ever had. But what about when you want to go fast? Real fast? No, faster. We've helped cars go faster than they've ever gone before. Broken a few lap records along the way. Want the best paving performance? Go to the source. TopCon, always one step ahead.
Hey, your Uncle Cooper here. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin. And Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you. Go with the Coopers. Cooper!
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.
As your uncle, I want you to know that on the road to life, There will be rough spots, and they will chew up your tires. I recently took a road trip to Greensville to attend a chili cook-off. Rough roads all the way down. I drove there on these Cooper Discoverer and Duramax tires. You know, they're made with the durability of off-road tires, but for on-road driving. Without them, we might never know the winning bean-to-meat ratio of a good chili. And those are the things in life, my friend, worth driving towards. So go with the Coopers. Cooper! I'm hungry now.
Oh, beautiful blue skies, 85 degrees, a fantastic day here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Road America, the venue for this event on the road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires, and the green flag has been thrown here at start-finish. Indy Lights drivers getting ready to roll out for their qualifying session. It'll be a half-hour run to see how the grid lines up for race number 1, which will take place tomorrow afternoon, 3:05 Central. Scheduled start time for the opening race of the doubleheader. My name is Rob Howden, joined in the booth today for this qualifying session by Eric Mueller and Greg Kramer, as the drivers just starting to roll out here right now. Robert McGinnis, the quickest driver in practice earlier today, a 156.009, his quick lap. Alex Peroni for Carlin Racing turned only 8 laps in total, the lowest among almost all of the drivers other than Daniel Frost. Peroni ends up P2. Toby Sowery for Juncos Racing has had a strong run of podium finishes, top 5s over the last number of races. He was 3rd. Double winner from Detroit, Kyle Kirkwood, in 4th spot for Andretti Autosport, and Christian Bogle, the young driver out of Covington, Louisiana. His best run in terms of practice session, P5. And Eric, we had a chance to call that session alongside Aaron Telitz, the 2016 Indy Pro 2000 champion and a multi-time Indy Lights race winner. A lot of input coming in from Aaron. This is going to be a really interesting session because I think that tires is going to be something we're going to talk about. This is the warmest, in talking to one of our Indy Lights engineers, that we have been here in this Dallara IL-15 era. 85 degrees. Normally we're mid-70s, so really, for the engineers, in terms of temperature-wise, everything really off the chart.
Well, absolutely. And some of these teams throughout the test session yesterday, we were seeing 2-3 seconds of tire fall off after about 8 or 9 laps on new tires. So once we get into that situation with brand new tires, how many times are you going to go out? Are you going to go out for 1 or 2 fast laps? Obviously, you know you got to bank one now just in case the red flag comes out during the session. That's going to be the critical thing, is to at least get a lap. You don't want to be held and all of a sudden you get a major red flag without a time and then you're back end Charlie.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you're going to do here is you are going to set out that banker lap at the very least, just to at least set up at least a pace lap, so to speak, for yourself, to find out where you are at pace here with the fresh tires. But strategy-wise, are you going to push it 1 or 2 laps at a time? This is not going to be a qualifying session, like Aaron said, that you're going to see guys go out for 6, 7, 8 laps where I'm just going to get faster and faster and faster with the tire burn off. You're going to go out for a lap or 2, come in, maybe hold on that time, and see where the rest of the session develops before you really kind of push that car back out a second time.
5 sessions in total on the weekend. Of course, 2 hours of open testing yesterday. They had 2 fresh sets there. 5 sessions here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Everyone with a carryover set of tires from the open test yesterday that they all ran in the practice session earlier today. So 4 sets of tires essentially for 4 sessions, 2 qualifying sessions, 2 races. How you use those tires is, of course, at the discretion of the engineers. Do you use both sets of fresh tires during qualifying? As Eric had mentioned, you go out and get a banker lap, put in maybe 2-3 laps on that set of tires, bring those ones in. Those are your race tires for that particular event. Then you make the adjustment, put the fresh tires on, and go back out. That's normally what a lot of the teams do, although depending on how good someone is, how you roll off the trailer, if you're significantly better than your competition, in that first qualifying session, they may all be going for 2 sets of tires. If you've got enough of a gap, you've got 1 set in, you hold on to that fresh set of stickers for the race. That can sometimes, Greg, make a big difference.
Well, it does, obviously. Having that fresh set you talked about, when you put a heat cycle on tires, it can give them a little bit more longevity, but it does take away a little stick. And so if you've got a nice fresh set of tires and you bring them in well early in that race, you're going to have something to really fight with for the entirety of that race with that nice set of a sticker tire. So management is huge, as you guys have pointed out.
You talk about that stick, though. And I think about that opening lap here, how chaotic it is sometimes with Indy Lights when people know that the easiest place and the best time to pass is that opening circuit when you're all packed up, you're 2, 3 wide, whatever it may be. I'd like a little extra stick in 1, 3, and 5 if I possibly could, please, on the opening circuit. So it'll be interesting. I look forward to see who comes in. Strategy is going to play a key to the end result on the weekend.
So you're saying in 1, 3, and 5 on the opening lap, you want a tire that's real rubbery?
Really rubbery.
Because we know what he meant.
In the words of Aaron Telitz, those tires were quite rubbery.
Yep.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
But he was talking about the crossover rubber from the Firestone rubber from
That's
the
true.
IndyCar series.
That's
so,
we
so
did talk about that.
In fairness, that's what he was talking
Sure.
about is the ability to go where he said that you will be much more gripped up as more events go in the racing line. You'll have a lot more grip in the racing line, but you get offline, and that's where the rubber, marbles, clag, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
that's where that's going to build up, and that's going to be what plays into having to have fresh tires, what's going to hold on best in those low grip situations.
And that's where this COVID situation, this COVID schedule where IndyCar has really changed the way we approach our weekends, because IndyCar is not on till the very end of the day. Normally, these guys will be qualifying on post-IndyCar session rubber. Now, it's the clean racetrack. This track doesn't rubber up with us. It takes IndyCar to get out to really start getting some rubber down. So really just a clean racetrack. Yeah, we may be putting a little bit of rubber down, but tomorrow, once IndyCar's been out for their practice session, which they'll have at 4 o'clock this afternoon, this race is going to be much different. They're going to be having to approach it a much different racetrack.
So in translation for another Wisconsinite for Aaron, so I will speak for Aaron. I think what he was trying to say, obviously, is the softer compound from Firestone puts a lot more rubber down into the racetrack, into the asphalt. We had a green racetrack today, so there's a little bit more Cooper rubber down today than we may have had after the 2-hour test session yesterday. There would have been a lot more rubber down, but a lot of that got washed off last night too.
Indeed. Let's have a quick look at the championship point standings coming into the weekend here for those of you tuning into the Sirius 209. Great to have you along with us. And again, the full IndyCar Radio Network crew, Nick Yeoman and the staff, will be online throughout the weekend. But it'll be myself, Eric, and Greg, as I said, here for this session on Friday. Linus Lundqvist comes in as the point leader. He's had a really stable season thus far. A couple of race wins. Was on the podium both races as well at Detroit. Kyle Kirkwood, of course, sweeping the weekend there. Kyle's performance at the Raceway at Belle Isle really is what's turned things upside down. 4 points separating the top three drivers. Linus Lundqvist, 191 points. His teammate at HMD Motorsports and Global Racing Group, David Malukas, with 3 wins on the total, 190 points. Kirkwood's victories there to Detroit to pair with his St. Petersburg triumph will put him at 187 points. So this championship, right essentially at the halfway point here this weekend, just 4 markers separating the top 3. Not that far back, about 45 points is Toby Sowery. He's going to need a sweep weekend of his own. Devlin DeFrancesco, P5, Alex Peroni in 6. Those drivers just separated by a couple of points. Peroni just outside the top 5.
I was going to say, do you have the feeling like I do that Toby Sowery is going to explode here pretty soon? Just the way he's been in the last few races, the form, the raciness he's been showing, I think he's ready.
You know, Greg brings up a really good point. You know who it really reminds me of? Pato.
Yeah.
His approach a little bit, just the momentum that Pato was slowly starting to build when he first got into that lights car. He's really starting to kind of build that. I think that confidence is starting to come as well with him.
Yeah, I think that I would put those guys in the same position in terms of self-confidence. They both know they have the ability to get the job done. It's just whether or not they can do it. For Toby Sowery, remember 2 years ago, he was part of an interesting operation. It was a late call-up by Team Pelfrey. Dale Pelfrey brought his team back out. David Malukas was running with BN Racing. Team Pelfrey brought out Sowery. He literally, I think he had one test 2 weeks before the start of the season and then came out and went racing. They kind of blended together, and by the end of the season, Toby was able to get a race win. Of course, last year he was supposed to run for Bilardi Auto Racing, that season going on hiatus, so didn't get a chance and didn't race a Formula car. So here he is on the bench, not racing a Formula car for a full year, similar to Kyle Kirkwood. Then he goes and joins Juncos Racing, a brand new team he's never been with. So there's the dialogue, everything you have to learn to be together. Didn't get a lot of testing in either. It was a late program. So he's just kind of, his steady move upwards is what I've been seeing out of Toby Sowery. And I would just think, we're riding along with him right now, those of you who have video or aren't on Sirius, he is, I think, ready for a breakout. And this is the track that he really likes, Greg. I think this could be very interesting. And I would love to see him win, only to get another new winner and to jam him back into the championship, because I want this thing to go with a handful of drivers all the way down to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
He was third in the practice session too,
Yeah.
so I mean he's got some pace here, and you look at those practice times; they are telltale to a degree, but people are on a different agendas in practice, and it may not always be about outright speed. You may be working on a certain section of the track, trying to optimize things so you're not worried about your outright lap at that point. But when you're in that top 3, certainly in a practice practice session, that portends well. And I just have to say it. It's been a while since I've had the good fortune to call one of these events. And since this car came out, I have thought there is really, globally, not a better-looking Formula car than the Indy Lights. It is just beautiful.
I'm with you, and I'll add this. When they first said we were going to put the Halo-type device on, I went, oh, no, don't ruin this beautiful race car. But the way Tony Cotman worked with the crew to get it done, it really blends into the flow of the race car. And we were literally in a conversation back in the Road to Indy paddock about this. I almost feel like the car looks better with the Halo on it, which I would never have thought I was going to say last year.
Yeah, it's just a stunner, and the Indy car is just a wicked looking hot rod, and with the glass shield and everything on the windscreen, it looks just really, really hot roddy. But these cars are just as aesthetically beautiful, and they go.
Yeah, I'll tell you this.
They work.
And Eric, you mentioned it before. How many guys have we seen come into pit lane right now? They've got a banker lap. They've got 2 laps in the books. They've got a good lap. 156.089 for Devlin DiFrancesco. He heads to pit lane. Daniel Frost, 159.099. He pulls into pit lane right now. Also in the pit, David Malukas, Linus Lundqvist, Stingray Robb, Benjamin Pedersen. We have not yet seen a time laid down by Alex Peroni, Christian Bogle, Robert McGinnis, or Kyle Kirkwood. Now, this is, in my mind, are they just waiting? Are they hanging out? Are they going to save tires? Or do they want open racetrack, whatever it may be?
Well, in practice this morning, what was the team that didn't go out until the very last 4 or 5 minutes of that session?
It was Carlin with
exactly.
Alex Peroni.
Carlin's playing a strategy here, I think. In this situation, maybe waiting for clean racetrack with everybody coming on the pit lane, maybe making some adjustments. Then maybe they'll send Alex Peroni out, and look what kind of lap that Peroni set on that out lap.
P5.
Yeah. So I mean, we know that Carlin's got speed in that car. Now it's just a matter of putting it to practice.
Shot of Antonio Saravalli in the Pissarra Racing machine working his way through Canada Corner up at a Billy Mitchell Bend and through this very crucial turn 14 final corner on the racetrack. And you look at it there, and that's a really good look at it because it's not your stereotypical 90-degree corner where you're getting in straight, you're getting on the brakes, you're rolling through the corner. You're coming out, you're sweeping back, and you're literally almost pointing away from the apex of the corner before you start to woe the car up to get it turned. I find it to be such a hard corner. The first time I raced here was actually in a Formula V back in I think 2007 or 2008, and I struggled trying to figure out how to set myself up for that corner because the markers just aren't there as a traditional 90-degree corner.
Well, one of the other things that happens in turn 14 as well is you're coming up the hill from 13 out of Billy Mitchell Bend, and Greg, you know this just about as good as anybody else from that standpoint. But you come out of the hill in 13, you immediately crest the hill, and then it's like the bottom of the car just falls away. There's about a 6 or 8 inch. It's not a whole lot, but there's just a little bit of a nice 6 to 12 inch slope that comes out of that corner. The car just kind of lifts, and then it has to set back down. And whatever compression you're using from a suspension adjustment makes a big difference on your braking point, because now not only are you slowing the car down from a braking standpoint, but you're actually losing momentum because the racetrack falls away, and then it's a blind apex entry because simply you're cresting the hill, coming down the hill. That apex is so unique in 14 because the outer rub strip just outside of apex isn't visible to you when you make your turn in.
It's a critically important corner because this long straight with the uphill. I mean, I remember my first race here. I was in an ITC Toyota Starlet with a whopping 72 horsepower, and I just lost speed all the way up the hill.
Did you get out and push it faster?
I did, actually.
It's 20 horsepower more than my V. Remember that?
That's a good point. But it's so critical because with that climb, momentum is massive, but it's such a tricky corner as you're talking about. And that one aspect you talk about, turn 6 mirrors that as well. It's a very tricky corner because you've got to time your braking into each of them to perfection, because if you over brake when you're light coming over that little rise, you lock up, it's not effective. You got to wait for the car to plant, get the braking done, get your turn in done, and get on the throttle. Really, really tricky. And turn 14, of course, just massively important.
That's Saravalli back into pit lane as well. So a number of drivers, as we said, kind of taking that line and coming in early. A couple of drivers, like I said.
Robert McGinnis was so quick in that practice session.
He's waiting.
They have not made a lap yet.
Oh, man. Well, again, it's the strategy. We talked about the different ways of doing this. It seems to me like Carlin and a couple of the Andretti drivers. I wonder if Andretti split the strategy a little bit there. They've got a couple of guys that already have gone out, Devlin DiFrancesco and Daniel Frost, P1 and P2. I believe they're likely on their second set of tires right now. They've already pit. Saravalli and Nikita Lostishkin has pit. There's Toby Sowery in pit lane as well. You see McGinnis hanging out there.
He's peeking. He can see the turn 1 screen down there.
He can see the screen. He realizes he's on TV, and he's pointing to the sponsors already. Toby Sowery.
Savvy Sowery, I think.
Well, we talked
That was
earlier,
cool.
Rob, about how this is a 360-degree circle where we're giving people the ability to see and learn how to operate with the media, operate with the aspect of how to interact with the team. It's a total package here with the Road to Indy. It's not just learning how to your racecraft and get through how to perform and drive with these race cars. It's about learning everything that's associated with the race program, how to manage media, how to manage the sponsors, how to manage the crowd. It's a full program in the Road to Indy, and that's what's so special about seeing the graduates like Jack Harvey, Pato O'Ward, and having that success now in the NTT IndyCar Series, because it's all down to what this program is really intended for. Obviously the racecraft, but the full package and what that full package brings to a sponsor potential.
Well, to have real success, obviously you have to be fast. You can't deny that. But you also need to have that presence that fans latch onto, that media latch onto, that want to do it. I mean, you look at, the classic example is Elio. The Spider-Man. I mean, he's got that persona that people just gravitate to him. I think Pato O'Ward, his energy and, his enthusiasm, that's there as well. And that's part of this program. You're absolutely right. If you get out of the car and you stink in interviews, and you're not going to be that popular driver. Sponsors look at that. It's a huge deal. And this training program, Rob, second to none.
And the thing that the young drivers don't understand, they start to get a feel for, we give them a little bit of a taste of it, is that racing the car is 25% of being a real race car driver.
Absolutely.
Everything else, 75% is what you do outside the car, sponsors, fans, whatever it may be. The car is a place you can get away from to a certain extent, but to be honest, that's what it's about. It's about being part of a marketing package and with your investors and just the fans connecting with everybody.
We talked about that earlier, that the car is the constant.
Yeah.
Everything else around it changes, but the car is the constant.
And I look at this group of drivers, and I think the guys that do such a great job of it. A gregarious kid like Stingray Robb, he's got such an amazing personality. He
Greatest
loves
name
to
in
connect.
sports.
Great name,
Yeah.
but loves to connect with people.
Yeah.
His sponsors, his investors. I love the way he handles himself, just because he's such a class act individual, and to be out there and be able to do that, he'll have a bright future because he understands that side of it.
There was a company, this was a lot of years ago, but it still plays, that did a study and on what were the most important aspects of getting a sponsorship from this company. Fourth was results.
Yep.
Number one, how the racers related to kids outside of the vehicle.
All right. That's it. I get it.
It's huge.
Yeah. That's funny when some kids will say, hey, listen, can you find money for me to go racing? I said, if I could find money, I'd go racing myself. Because I think I'm pretty good outside the car as well. Results don't matter that much, as you said. Again, back looking at the time here, 12 minutes remaining. And interesting, we have a half an hour session for these drivers. We have a half-hour session yesterday. Down to a 20-minute session, they wouldn't be able to make changes to tires, but just the simple characteristics of this weekend, the temperature, the tires themselves, it appears to me that obviously 30 minutes is not really needed, but we have it, so they're leveraging it. They're trying to optimizing it the best we can. To see that we have 4 drivers still on pit lane, man, that's you wait for the final 5 or 6 minutes.
But there's that risk again, too, that we talked about earlier, is that you've got to have a one out lap, then you have your first fast lap, and that's where you find out, did you nail the pressures? Because the pressures inside it all relates to heat, and if you're off by just a little bit when those tires hit that sweet spot, you're not going to be there. So this is where these engineers are earning their money.
And what about a red flag, Eric?
Right, I was just that's exactly where I was going. You read my mind, but right now there's 11 minutes left. What happens if the red flag comes out and it's a lengthy cleanup? You've now thrown away your entire qualifying session, and you're starting in the back.
Kyle Kirkwood, first driver to leave pit lane, and his outlap puts him P3. And so that means he's only going to use one set of tires here right now. He'll have a spare set that they're going to hold on to. I'm wondering if some of these guys just believe they need to have that spare set or a fresh set for the races. This will be interesting. And for me to see Andretti Autosport potentially split it, because if you look right now, I see DiFrancesco and Frost came in. They've got 2 laps and 3 laps. 1 lap for Kirkwood. Looks like they're back on the racetrack for DiFrancesco and Frost. I wonder if they're still on the racetrack on the same tires they went out on. I don't know that they may have not put fresh tires on.
be.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'd like to be on pit lane right now to find out for sure. I'll be for tomorrow, of course, when IndyCar Radio does come up. I'll be on pit lane at that point. We'll see what happens.
Peroni's got an active lap in ninth on the first flyer there. So Carlin splitting their strategy, yet Christian Bogle still has not left pit lane.
Bogle, I had a chance to talk to him earlier, and he's really happy with the car. And Christian's a guy that ran 2 years of USF 2000, won the Hard Charger Award last year, only one DNF. This is a stable driver. He wanted to make the jump up to Indy Lights. Pretty big jump for Christian, but he has shown exactly what we expected. Solid lap times, staying on the track. Couple of spins at Detroit. That was a place that's a bit tougher, as we know. But he has been a really great addition to the program so far and is getting quicker and quicker. And I laughed because I asked him about the comparison between USF 2000 last year and this year in Indy Lights. You think about the ridiculous amount of speed that he picks up from the two sections. He said he loves it. He goes, to be down in the kettle bottoms, to going over to Canada at that speed, one of the greatest feelings he's ever had. So it's amazing. Love it.
All 13 cars now have at least a lap across the stripe. Some fairly far off. Obviously, McGuinness, Bogle, and Listoshkin all over 158. So nowhere near the target here of Devlin DeFrancesco. But now everybody has taken a time. So now there is at least a banker lap in here, and the order is now just a matter of the last 8.5 minutes of sorting through and cycling through tires.
Peroni to fourth, by the way.
Yeah, you're right. Peroni up to fourth. I think the most telling thing is the driver with the most laps is Antonio Serravalle. He's turned 8 laps. Here's a young kid trying to get lap times, right? He needs the track time. He's just banging out laps. But as we look at it, everybody 2, 3, 4 laps. We're not going to see anybody running this entire session, even with 8.5 to go.
And Kirkwood just continues his, obviously a double champion in the other parts. You know he's good. But, you look at what he did in Detroit. But one lap, his first flyer here after he waited for the whole session, he jumps right to third. This kid's for real.
0.03 of a second separating first, second, and third right now.
Incredible.
159.089 for DeFrancesco, 159.099 for Frost, 156.123 for Kirkwood. 56 flat, 56.1, 33 thousandths of a second separating first and second. Peroni now up into the 4th spot. Malukas in 5th. 6th is Lundqvist. 7th, McGuinness. 8th, Robb. 9th, Pedersen. 10th, Sowery. 11th, Bogle. 12th, Serravalle. And 13th, Lastishkin. One thing I love about this season, over the last couple of years, Andretti Autosport's kind of been the juggernaut. Juncos Racing with Rinus VK was in there, battled it out, won a bunch of races, but ultimately lost the championship to Oliver Askew. Kyle Kaiser able to win the championship with them a couple of years earlier, but it's really been kind of an Andretti series as they've been really strong with Pato and Colton and Oliver. HMD arrives on the scene this year with Linus and David Malukas and Benjamin Pedersen and Nikita Lastishkin. They've won 5 of the races, so 5 of the 8 races so far. This seems to be all Andretti so far here this weekend. The HMD guys have a lot of work to do. Again, riding on board here with Sowery. Look at that wheel.
One thing I noticed that's a little bit different here on this particular lap comparative to this morning's practice, he did not have nearly as much oversteer in the carousel. So they've adjusted something on that car that give him a little bit more power delivery and keeping the rears stable on that car right there.
Those that watched our broadcast with Toby Sowery earlier today in the practice, you're right, Eric. He was sawing at the wheel, having to control that car, sliding through the off-camber carousel.
He was swatting at flies. Yeah.
But the only problem is it's not transitioned yet to speed. Wait to see where he ends up here. Let's let this live timing
we do
update.
know that race pace is going to be different than qualifying pace, though.
100%. Yeah. How are you going to be able to handle a car later down in a longer run, right?
Well, and part of it is obviously, in practice, you're looking ahead, extrapolating a bit of data out because you want a car that's going to be quick at the end of the race when, you're light on fuel, so the car should be a little more responsive, accelerates better, turns better, brakes better, but you've got tire degradation. The Coopers are amazing, but any tire is going to feel the toil after a long, hard race, and so they're working on that. So seeing what they're doing now in qualifying, the kink, carousel, 1 all of these long duration, really fast corners, you want a car that's stable, that's not twitchy, that's got solid, good platform on entry.
And I don't think anybody's run a race simulation even yesterday because they only had 2 sets of fresh tires yesterday. So a couple drivers limited running in the opening session. They did some qualifying sims, whatever it may be, in the afternoon session. Nobody's done a 20-lap run. Those are the length of the races here this weekend as part of the doubleheaders. So, again, drivers turning anywhere between 3 and 8 laps so far. Toby Sauer, his 6th lap, the best last time by, moving him to 7th, a 159.950. Sauer still over 0.8 of a second back.
McGinnis up to 4th.
Yeah, but 4 tenths back. That was, 4th is solid, but 4 tenths back.
Yeah, that's a chunk.
Yeah, top 3 still separated by just those 33 thousandths of a second. Devlin DeFrancesco, the number 17. Runner-up last year at Indy Pro 2000, got nipped at the line by Daniel Frost in the opening race of the doubleheader last year. I made a mistake on that at the Cooper Tire Q&A, literally talking to Daniel Frost and Devlin, and I kept saying that Devlin won the race 1, and that Daniel won race 2, and they were just laughing at me the whole time. They literally didn't fill me in. I had to smack them up later on. If I make a mistake, tell me, for God's sakes. But, yeah, that was an internal joke that they enjoyed. But last year was Daniel Frost, who qualified on pole, got a DQ. I can't remember what the DQ was for off the top of my head, and then came from dead last and won the race on a drag race to the line with Devlin. So those two teammates ready to battle it out.
And that speaks to what we were chatting about earlier. This track, you can win from the field. So,
100%.
Again, you might roll the dice a little bit here. Make sure you're saving some tire. Maybe not great in qualifying, but have a car that's good at the end of the race.
4 minutes remaining. Devlin DeFrancesco for Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport leading the way right now. The Canadian-American living in Miami, Florida right now. 156.098. Or 089, rather. 3 laps is all he's put in. Says, I was going to say his status said he's active and on the racetrack. Just turned another fast lap. 4 laps for Devlin DeFrancesco. 5 laps in the books for Frost. 4 for Kirkwood. Toby Sauer, guys, up into the top 5. Toby Sauer now quicker than Stingray Robb. Both those Junko's racing teammates now 5th and 6th. That's the best we've seen them qualify together so far. The best qualifying effort as we run for Stingray Robb. It's still over 3 minutes remaining. DeFrancesco, Frost, Kirkwood, Malukas, and Sauer, current top 5.
Coming up the final 3 minutes here, Rob. Obviously, Christian Bogle, what I would consider off the pace by, almost a full second and a half or more right now, just trying to find speed. 4 laps completed there. They may be having an issue with that 7 machine.
I don't think so. I think Christian's out here on a fact-finding mission. His goal this year is to get comfortable in this car. I mentioned before, that's a really big jump from USF 2000 to Indy Pro. We talked to Aaron Telitz, who won the Indy Pro 2000 championship at 16, made the jump up, and he talked about how the physicality, just the difference in these two cars. And I talked to the guys at the Q&A as well, to Devlin and Daniel, who both ran Indy Pro last year. This car is so much more of everything.
Daniel Frost, P1.
Yeah, new driver to the top of the charts, Daniel Frost. David Malukas up to 2nd as well. But Frost, significantly quicker, 55.5. He's a half a second faster than David Malukas.
That tells you there's a lot to come here in these last 2 minutes.
I agree. There's potentially a lot still rolling out here. Frost, Malukas, DeFrancesco, Kirkwood, and Sauer. And where's the championship leader right now? How about 10th for Linus Lundqvist? He's got a 1-point lead over his teammate, a 4-point lead over Kirkwood. Linus Lundqvist in 10th position.
And he's not had an easy day here either. Brought out a red flag in the practice session as well earlier today.
You're exactly right. HMD driver sitting first. First, 8th, 10th, and 11th as McGinnis into pit lane in the number 27. That'll be it for Robert McGinnis. He is P7 for McGinnis in the number 27 machine, the New Yorker. Still riding on board here with Toby Sauer. Solid input here, a little different than what we saw earlier. Let's have a look through the carousel here. Does he have to catch the car?
See,
bit there.
Real loose in the center apex, but he was really trying to counter steer it in even way earlier than that in that practice session this morning. You want the car to rotate. You want it to get to a certain point there where you don't have to put a lot of steering input into it from center apex out. But coming in, the car looks a lot more stable. He was chasing that car coming in on, making that a later apex entry into 9 underneath the Johnsonville-Speedville Bridge. He was a lot further sideways earlier on in that, in the session this morning.
Well, and remember, just about halfway through the carousel, there's that little crown where it drops just a little bit, and if you're absolutely on the limit, car's going to either push out or step out in the back through there, and I think that's that little correction, but you got to attack it.
And that's it for Toby Sowery. As you can see him, he'll pull off on a pit lane. 20 seconds remaining. Linus Lundqvist just jumped up to 7th.
But Sowery's up to 5th.
Toby Sowery in that 5th spot. Indeed, 0.6 of a second back. It's Frost, Malukas, DeFrancesco, Kirkwood, and Sowery. Point leader Linus Lundqvist now up into 7th spot, moving McGinnis back to 8th, Pedersen 9th, Peroni 10th. Surprise, Peroni that far back after looking good earlier on today. Checker flag has flown to end the session here in Indy Lights, the qualifying run for the opening of 2 races here this weekend at Road America. Race tomorrow getting set to go at 3:05 Central Time, right after I believe the guys are out in the Radical Cup. Frost, though, Daniel Frost, waiting to see if any other drivers are on track. Daniel Frost, a 155.593. Of the tight nature we've seen in this category, for Daniel to lay down a lap a half a second faster, that is stunning. Lundqvist still on the racetrack, and I think that was Pedersen who just rolled through the kink as well in the Dirtfish HMD Motorsports with Global Racing Group machine. That's it for Christian Bogle as well, 157.86 for him. The 17 of DeFrancesco in. He'll start on the inside of row number 2 as they stand.
Well, I'll tell you, for Daniel, who's 7th in the points and has had a bit of a character-building year for him to do this, that's got to be massive.
Again, playing off of last year, I asked him about that. He said, did the confidence of that win last year, do you bring it here? And he said, yeah, I need this right now. He knows that they've got a really good race car. He's P1. Even of note as well, Linus Lundqvist, another 2 spots in the final circuit. He goes up to P5, where he'll start alongside Toby Sowery. So Lundqvist, a 156.169, his best lap, the last one, 9 laps in total. You look at the laps the drivers did do, only 4 laps for Kyle Kirkwood. I wonder what that means tire-wise. I think a single stint for him. He's going to have another set of fresh tires. I'll do some digging in the afternoon to find out what we got in terms of tire usage. In comes the 24 of Pedersen. I think that's going to be it, folks. There's your unofficial results for qualifying for race one of the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. Daniel Frost, the Denjet number 68, driver from Singapore, doing a tremendous job for Andretti Autosport. Ends up P1 ahead of David Malukas, their current second place point sitter driver in the number 79. Devlin DeFrancesco in the number 17 in 3rd. Kyle Kirkwood in 4th. Linus Lundqvist 5th. Toby Sowery in 6th. Stingray Robb 7th. Robert McGinnis 8th. Benjamin Pedersen 9th. And Alex Peroni in 10th. Let's go down to pit lane. Katie Kyle, I believe, chatting with our pole sitter.
Yeah, Rob Howden, I am with Daniel Frost, who, like you said, just scored his very first pole in the Indy Lights Series. And Daniel, half a second faster than the rest of the field. What did you do different on that lap?
I did the same thing as I usually do. I go fast, and I'm really happy. Did not expect this at all, especially that gap we got. But, first Indy Lights pole, it really means a lot. We've been working really hard to try and, get to the top step, and we're one step away from getting the first victory. So, I'm just grateful that we were able to top it off for qualifying.
This is also a great racetrack for you last year, winning just barely over Devlin DeFrancesco. What do you like about driving around Road America?
I'm not sure. I just like Road America for some reason. We've been getting good results, so I can't complain. I'm happy with Road America.
It's certainly working out for you. Congratulations, Daniel.
Thank you.
Eric, when you're a happy driver and you like a racetrack, you're normally fast. This is actually where he made his debut in USF 2000 a couple of years ago as well.
Thanks to Katie as well for grabbing that for us. But when you're always happy at your last win, right?
That's it.
So you got to like a track you win at. That's kind of part of the rule package, isn't it?
Well, and you can never overestimate the importance of confidence for a driver. If you're not confident, you're not going to be quick. He's come to a place that he knows he's fast at. He's confident here. The car's dialed up. and he maxed it out. He did a beautiful job.
I know in talking to some drivers, when they tell me that they don't like a racetrack, I tell them to go back into the trailer, sit down, and figure out a way to like it. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to be fast. Well, folks, that's going to wrap things up here on Sirius and our coverage of qualifying for Indy Lights race number 1. Daniel Frost with the pole time of 155.593. David Malukas ends up second. Devlin DeFrancesco third. Kyle Kirkwood in fourth. And Linus Lundqvist, his final lap, bouncing him up into the Fast Five. Drivers at Indy Lights, again, will be racing tomorrow at 3:05. That'll be race number 1, but they do have a qualifying session tomorrow morning as well at 9:20. That, of course, will be covered by the IndyCar Radio Network crew here on Sirius, on the Road to Indy TV app, and on the YouTube channel of The Race. Nick Yeoman, the anchor of the Indy Lights broadcast, will be back alongside Mark Janes and driver analyst Davey Hamilton. It'll be Michael Young and Jake Query out on the course, and myself on pit lane with Joel Sebastianelli and Ryan Marine. Thank you so much for tuning in to the event here at Road America. We'll go racing tomorrow with Indy Lights as part of the Cooper Tires Grand Prix of Road America here in Elkhart Lake. Thanks so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.
The Chevy Silverado
your Uncle
Trail
Cooper here. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin, and Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you.
Go with the Coopers. Cooper!
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the Road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.
As your uncle, I want you to know that on the road of life, there will be rough spots, and they will chew up your tires. I recently took a road trip to Greensville to attend a chili cook-off. Rough roads all the way down. I drove there on these Cooper Discoverer and Duramax tires. You know, they're made with the durability of off-road tires, but for on-road driving. Without them, we might never know the winning bean-to-meat ratio of a good chili. And those are the things in life, my friend, worth driving towards. So go with the Coopers. Cooper! I'm hungry now.
TopCon, we know a thing or two about a smooth surface. Roads and highways, piece of cake. Airports, let's just say it'll be the smoothest landing you've ever had. But what about when you want to go fast? Real fast? No, faster. We've helped cars go faster than they've ever gone before. Broken a few lap records along the way. Want the best paving performance? Go to the source. TopCon, always one step ahead.
Hey, your Uncle Cooper here. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldie, my niece, your cousin, and Goldie didn't know which tires were right for her. The first ones were too much tire, and then the next ones were not enough tire. Anyway, long story short, Goldie found the Coopers, and they were just right. What a happy, practical ending. Go to sleep. I love you.
Go with the Coopers. Cooper!
Karting and motorsport enthusiasts, Lucas Oil School of Racing is America's #1 Formula Car race school. Enjoy modern paddle shifters, pit speed limiter, and onboard video along with integrated data systems. Get started today with our 2-day basic or advanced course. Lucas Oil School of Racing is the official school of the Road to Indy. We can also qualify you for your SCCA license. Get started today by visiting us at www.lucasraceschool.com.
With over 40 years in business, High Tide Boat Lifts is committed to elevating your craft. Whether you own a personal watercraft or a large yacht, we can design and create the perfect lift for your needs. At High Tide Boat Lifts, we understand that you've worked hard to get to a successful place in life. We'll ensure you have a hassle-free experience, maximizing the time you spend on your boat with family and friends, and supporting your dreams out on the open water.
As your uncle, I want you to know that on the road to life, there will be rough spots, and they will chew up your tires. I recently took a road trip to Greensville to attend a chili cook-off. Rough roads all the way down. I drove there on these Cooper Discoverer and Duramax tires. You know, they're made with the durability of off-road tires, but for on-road driving. Without them, we might never know the winning bean-to-meat ratio of a good chili. And those are the things in life, my friend, worth driving towards. So go with the Coopers. Cooper! I'm hungry now.
P1 and P2, just about a quarter of a second behind. Portal, though, quickest over Siegel. Michael D'Orlando was third. Spike Kohlbecker in fourth. Juven Sunderworthy in fifth. Prescott Campbell sixth. Josh Pearson, Josh Green, Jace Denmark, and Bajoy Garg rounding out the top 10. championship battle is a good one here right now as well. Yuvan Sundaramurthy, who is a Wisconsin driver, actually goes to the University of Wisconsin, lives in Delafield. 177 points over Kiko Porto with 170. Porto make that 171 now. Obviously, the bonus point for qualifying on pole for race run 1, so 6 points separating first and second. Christian Brooks in third, Michael D'Orlando in fourth, and Josh Pearson rounding out the top 5 of the championship standings. Michael D'Orlando coming off the win at the Freedom 75 on the banked Lucas Oil Raceway, part of the Carb Night Classic before the Indianapolis 500. Engines fired on pit lane as we are just about a minute away, maybe less than that, before we go green here. 25 drivers set to go as USF 2000 going to qualify for race number 2. 20-minute session for the drivers. IndyCar practice set to go at 4 o'clock. Those of you enjoying yourself here under beautiful blue skies, trackside at Road America, an absolutely gorgeous day so far. 86 degrees, Eric. One of the things that we've talked about, engineers telling me, there's just no data right now for 85 degrees at Road America. Normally here in the the mid to end of June, middle of June, right now it's
high
just,
mid 70s.
Yeah, this is just
beautiful.
not what we're not used to this. And of course, as we know, higher temperatures change everything in terms of what the engine likes and how the aero performs.
Certainly, and the warmer the track temperature is, the warmer the air underneath these cars, the less aero they're going to have, less downforce they're going to have as the air gets to a much different configuration. That 1.5 feet off the ground. That's where you see that heat haze coming off the road. When you're looking down the road, that heat haze is really plays effect with a lot of the downforce with these cars.
Indeed, the new car that we brought out in 2017, not quite as heavily downforce dependent as the car we had before. A lot more mechanical downforce for these cars that are designed, of course, to try to eliminate some of the aero wash that we get at a number of the tracks around the track. And by aero wash, I mean, well, once you get up behind the driver in front of you and the air is then pushed over top of your car, not over top of the front wing, you start losing a little bit of that front downforce, that grip. The closer you get, especially some of the longer duration corners where you're trying to set up for a pass, that front end starts to push away a little bit. You lose that front grip, and then you can have trouble.
Well, in these cars in particular, you look at how low that front wing rides to the ground, and there's that heat that radiates off when the track's really hot like this, and it's just an absolutely blue sky, sun's blazing down. So that track surface is really hot. The hotter something is, the thinner the air is around it, which means aero is a lot less effective, as you point out. And this front wing rides way down there, so they have to really have this car balanced to perfection to be able to get through these corners. And this is a track where you don't want a lot of drag, but as we've talked about it, to get through the carousel, the kink, one, and all that, you need a little bit of stick as well. And so this is where, again, those engineers really start to earn their pay when they look at, all right, how do we the back of the car, make sure that we aren't carrying too much wing, and the car then just becomes massively pushy.
Interesting part of what we do here on the road to Indy, of course, it's all a spec series, as we know, right? So the cool factor is everybody's in the same car. They've got the same wing package. They can make some adjustments on the wing package. Not like being here for an SCCA runoffs when you see somebody in the Formula Continental class with a super low wing in the back, the Nicky Coelhos, the Arms Up Motorsports guys with the really low wing in the back. Everything's locked here. We don't get the crazy stuff, but indeed, as you said, the aero not going to play quite a bigger role here in the higher heat. But the drivers still have to hustle these cars around for sure.
I remember back in the day, an Atlantic race here in Claude Bourbonnais on a caution, under a full course caution, somebody hit him from behind and knocked the rear wing off of the car. And he pitted, Bennett, he pits, they yank the wing off. He goes back out, dead last in the field, and ended up moving up into the top 5. And afterwards, I mean, he was driving a top fueler, right? It went like stink down the straights. But, man, it was just a car control clinic of broadslides through all of the other corners.
That's awesome.
And brought it up through the field. It was, incredible. So if you've got massively quick hands and an amazing feel, you can run a car super trimmed out here and get the job done.
Can you imagine seeing him blow by you on the straightaway and then the thing would just be an absolute handful in the corner?
And so wide in the corner you can't try and get underneath.
Gloves coming out of the cockpit as the wheels going left and right.
As your phrase is, swatting flies.
Swatting at flies, but
mosquitoes around here.
But a lot of that, with wing changes, things like that, really for finding the proper aero balance, it really is the art of compromise.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to say, okay, if we do this, it's going to do this. Can we go halfway on the change? And that's the big thing is you're making micro adjustments on these race cars. Very honestly, you're not throwing, to use a NASCAR phrase, you're not going to throw 4 rounds of wedge in this car. You're just not.
No, it's all fine-tuned.
You're in a millimeter. You're talking a half a millimeter changes in some cases with changes with these cars. These cars are so precise. And that's what makes the series so important from a development standpoint. As you said, not just drivers, but crews as well, teams as well, getting that chance to develop.
Eli Navarro peeling off into pit lane early in the D-Force racing machine. But, yeah, a limited amount of adjustment in these cars. That's the idea. This isn't supposed to be this high-engineer car where you can, the engineers can make a big, big difference. It's more the fact that the drivers are the ones that have to hustle the car around.
But I think that's a really good point that, we think about this as a driver development series, but you've got crew members that start in, a US F2000 team, work their way up, and eventually end up at the top ranks in IndyCar, and teams as well. But, it is a road to the top tier for a lot of people involved in the sport, and it's phenomenal.
100% true, and we'd love to see that. That's what we're here for. Driver development, crew development, staff development, whatever it may be. Drivers getting settled in here, again, coming under the Sargento Bridge from turn 3 down to turn number 5, that hard-braking corner. I like talking to Aaron Telitz about the Indy Lights car and just talking about all you got to do in turn 5, you're just trying to get the thing stopped as fast as you can, and then just let it roll through the corner.
Stop and turn. Stop and turn.
That's it.
Well, and you think about it, 5, of course, the classic example, but 8 as well, downhill braking zones where you don't have that uphill, momentum that can help you brake deep. You've got to be absolutely perfect on your braking. Easy to overshoot. You see, that's why you see a lot of runoffs in the 5. But if you overdo it, if you're overly cautious, then you're slow all the way up that hill. There's a lot of very tricky corners here.
I said I got a chance to get into the Symmetric Driver Labs sim over a trailer behind our tech, and a lot of the drivers we have in the paddock end up using that sim during the weekend to try to get a feel for the car, changes they may have made or what they want to do. And I struggled. I felt I was pretty good through turn number 5 on the brakes, but again, the minute I tried to get a hard hit on the brakes at the start, I find myself well past the brake. It just says how good these young drivers are, and of course, many of them just coming out of F1600, F4, whatever it may be, out of karting in some cases, right into the world of road to Indy racing in this Tatis USF 17, and impressed with the skill set they have.
So, how many times did you bin it first before you made a lap?
Actually, no, I don't think I wrecked until lap 5 or 6. I was trying to go too hard coming out of Canada Corner and dropped the wheel and looped it around. That was my first wreck. I'm the kind of guy that kind of picked. I was way off. There was 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Then I made a mistake.
So you're saying you were building speed?
I was building speed.
He was building momentum for the inevitable wreck. That's what he's saying.
All the way to the crash site.
Great. Yep.
As
the reference.
As an avid iRacer, I like the fact that when I wreck on the first couple of outlaps, because I forget there's cold tires, it costs a lot less to hit reset. I will be very honest. That's one advantage of that simulation.
Very true. Very true. 12 and a half minutes remaining in the session right now. Number of drivers into pit lane, out of pit lane. A number have not yet taken to the racetrack. We're taking cues from a number of the drivers from Indy Lights as well. We have just over half the drivers onto the racetrack so far. We have not yet seen a time from any of the 3 Pabst Racing drivers. Yuvan Sundermurthy, Josh Pearson, or Jace Denmark. Have not yet seen Miles Rowe, Simon Sykes, Thomas Nepfu, Evan Stammer, Michael D'Orlando, Spike Kohlbecker, Jackson Lee, Eric Evans, and Michael Myers. Have not seen any of those drivers lay a first lap time down as of yet. Kiko Porto, though, back on top again at 211.769. Porto, of course, the quickest driver in qualifying 1, a 210.78. Now at a 211.76, so still about a second off where he was earlier today.
And Porto really had him covered in that first session. In this series, they have a quarter of a second margin back to second place, and then another quarter second from Nolan back to, or some Siegel back to D'Orlando. Those are unusually big gaps here, so those guys are going to try and figure out a way to tap into what Kiko's doing.
Second season in the series for Kiko Porto, the Brazilian.
Ooh, Sykes goes to the top.
Ooh, Simon Sykes. Again, we talked about Simon Sykes earlier, Greg, about the fact that did he win both Formula Continental and Formula Ford last year, I think, at the runoffs? Didn't get the on-track win in Formula Ford, but I think it was a DQ and it moved him from second to P1. But nonetheless, this guy's won here before at the SCCA runoffs. Simon Sykes for Legacy Autosport, P1. But Kiko Porto, as I said, second year in the series, won at the finale last year at St. Petersburg, was able to get a victory this year already as well at on the road course in Indianapolis. So this guy it could definitely be a championship contender. As we're watching Jackson Lee roll out here. Sticker tires on the J. Howard driver development machine. Lee in the number 8 out of Avon, Indiana, getting ready to fire things up.
Maybe a very interested father next door here in this Father's Day weekend.
That's true. That's true. Interesting. We actually had Jackson join me and Alan Bestwick in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway PA booth. He was my driver analyst. And so we're setting up to, just in case Kevin Lee needs to retire pretty soon, we'll make sure Jackson's ready to go as a driver analyst.
He was taking a look at practice highlights earlier over Rob's shoulder.
Yeah, well, our question for Jackson, aside from stuff on the racetrack, we're trying to get some insight in what Kevin Lee's like as a racing dad, as opposed to being a broadcaster on NBC. Because I love the fact that I don't care how much you've been in the sport. Now, I don't have any kids myself, but being in karting, I've seen it. Guys that I've raced with before have always said, I would never be a cadet dad. It's like a soccer mom, being a cadet dad, right? Cadet karting dad. And inevitably, they're on the sidelines, steam coming out of their ears, freaking out at their kid going racing. So it's tremendous. Now Kevin and Jackson have worked really well together. Of course, they don't have the budget they need to go racing, so they put together a fantastic sponsorship package. A lot of great supporters of Jackson's program.
So Dylan Christie in the 34 machine, currently third quick, or was the third quick. Obviously, as Josh Pearson just goes P1, but Christie's team just putting sticker rears on that 34 machine on pit lane here. Looks like they...
Wow, Pearson, Sundaramurthy, Sykes, Porto back to 4th.
Kiko Porto back to P4, as Greg said. Josh Pearson in the number 24, a 211 rather, .443. And I'll just throw this out here for Josh Pearson, because you think about how things happen at certain racetracks. Are you comfortable with a racetrack? Last year here, a brake issue coming down to turn 1, straight off the racetrack, powered it into the tires at the end of the straightaway. 15 years of age at that point, you think that could shake you up. You end up taking a ride to the medical center. Nope, next race, back on the car, ready to go, and here he is right now, P1 at a track where he literally bent it hard at the end of the straightaway.
Well, we talk about a lot of times in racing, and I mentioned this in the Radical practice session this morning, the most important 6 inches in a race car driver is between the ears.
Yeah, that's
and a lot of that has to do with PMA, positive mental attitude. And when you've got a situation where you turn a negative into a learning experience and make it a positive, in cases like that, you got to get right back on the horse and ride.
That's it.
So that's really where that positive mental attitude. We had a setback. Let's rebuild it and go back after it. Takuma Sato, no attack, no chance, right? And so it's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
You've got to attack the racetrack a little bit here.
Keyed on Jackson Lee right now. The picking him up coming through turn number 3, back down the hill here. 3, a crucial corner, of course. Back on the throttle early, able to get down there to turn number 5. Here's Jackson in the J. Howard driver development machine. Jackson currently in the points standing, sitting in 17th, actually coming off one of his best runs at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, top 10 result the day that I had him actually in the booth as well. And again, the great thing about Jackson, young driver coming through karting, that was part of the Team USA Scholarship. Got a chance to go run the Formula Ford Festival. Got a chance as well to run the Walter Hayes Trophy, similar to Aaron Telitz. Being part of that program, I think, is it's just such a crucial opportunity. Not a lot of drivers get a chance to be part of Team USA, but as I said, they've done a fantastic job putting together a lot of great sponsorship packages. Tanemic, Browning Chapman, Spruce Haven, Doug Mockett and Company, Caldwell Realty, Cox, Beckman, Goss and Company, all part of the package of partners that Kevin and Jackson have been able to put together.
And I loved how Jackson talked about running at the Walter Hayes and the festival. He said that mindset of the European racers, which is absolutely cutthroat, he said that has helped his racecraft here. It has made a lot of what he does now a lot more decisive.
He'd never driven in the rain before either. And, of course, you're going to go to Europe and the festival in the fall.
England, yeah.
Oh, there he's on. It's actually Jackson Lee going off, pushing hard.
Announcer's curse yet again.
Yeah, way to go, Greg.
Well, I noticed as you guys are talking, into 12, that car looked really unsettled under braking. He had to correct it in a straight line. And when that happens, especially going into the 12, Greg, you know that's either you've lost the grip and he's wide again off of 14.
This was his first outlap, too.
Right.
So, I mean,
cold tires.
Cold tires, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, you don't know where the edge is until you go over it, but on those cold tires, you're doing everything you can. He'll slot in behind one of the D-Force racing drivers. This could be good for him. There's a replay of
Rough
Jackson
ride.
off over there. And indeed a rough ride, but these cars are pretty stiff. Everything looks pretty good. He's able to get back on it. The D-Force guy's coming up, but he's going to find himself behind two of the fastest drivers, Kiko Porto and Prescott Campbell. So maybe,
time to go to school a bit. Or
maybe the positive or the negative turns into a positive if you can learn a little bit from these guys and potentially get a bit of a tow. 5.5 minutes to go.
Kiko back on top, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. D-Force 1-2 again, Greg. Kiko Porto and Prescott Campbell, P1 and P2. Michael D'Orlando in third. Josh Pearson fourth. Yuvan Sunder-Murthy in fifth spot. Sixth is Simon Sykes. Seventh, Thomas Nepfu. Eighth, Jace Denmark. Ninth, Dylan Christie. And 10th is Spike Kohlbecker. Christian Brooks down in 18th position. Tough day for the drivers for Exclusive Autosport. They've got things really rolling in Indy Pro 2000, but not so much here right now in USF. They're going to have work to do getting those cars dialed in. They're going to find some more speed for tomorrow. Christian Brooks, who is third in points now, of course, needs to find some more. There's Jackson Lee, sticking with him again. Jackson out of the corner here, trying to see if he can't stay with the 12 of Kiko Porto. Jackson get ready to get his first lap in the books. So on the throttle as quick as he can, coming through the downhill carousel.
And one car that has not taken a time, Michael Myers, obviously they had a nose-to-wall contact, fairly significant left rear damage in that practice session earlier today.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're continuing to repair that car for tomorrow. He'll start both races at the tail of the field. Michael Myers, another Indiana driver. Hopefully they'll be able to get that car back together and get rolling once again. Jackson Lee continuing to roll here. 4 minutes remaining. We'll see what he gets on that opening lap as he is doing what he can to chase Kiko Porto, pole sitter in the provisional pole sitter from race 1. Jackson a little cleaner coming through turn number 14. See if we get that toe coming up the hill. Jackson's first time at 216.544. Got to keep on it. Trying to get that draft.
Well, on the other side of it, when he had that run off, obviously it was late in his outlap, so he had some heat built into those tires. Then you go off track and you pick up a lot of that debris, and it's going to take you a while to clean those tires off. So
Indeed.
I think this next lap is going to be a lot more telling.
210.825 for Kiko Porto, 0.3 quicker than his teammate Prescott Campbell. Wow. Porto is rolling here this weekend. So is D-Force Racing.
I'll tell you, only a 10th off where he ran in qualifying in the much cooler conditions earlier today. That's an impressive lap.
That says a lot. You're right. We're gonna have two totally different races. Remember, tomorrow, Greg, they race at 11:15, then 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. You got to know there's going to be about a 15 or 20 degree difference between those two times of the day as well. Very warm weekend here. Although I'm not going to say it, but Sunday the forecast a little different than today. I didn't say anything, Eric.
I'm still giving you the look. They can't see it, but I'm still giving you the look.
I'm 100% getting the look right now. It could be an interesting weekend for these guys come Sunday for sure. So we'll see what happens. But if the racing gods come to our rescue, it will push around Road America. 2.5 minutes remaining. No, let's call it 2:14 left to go. Porto still on top. Nolan Siegel turns a good lap time. He'll go to P4 at 2:11.278. That's D-Force 1, 2, 4. They have a handle on this racetrack right now in USF 2000. Make it 1, 2, 3 as Nolan Siegel goes to P2. D-Force locking out the top 3 spots. D'Orlando 4th, Pearson 5th, Green 6th, Nepfu 7th. Kohlbecker, Sunder-Murthy, and Sykes the top 10. Jackson Lee a little quicker on that next lap. And where does he go? Up to, they haven't, I wait for it to update a little bit here. I got Bajoy Garg twice on there. So probably 19th or 20th, I'm going to say, for Jackson Lee. Still a minute and a half remaining. Yeah, make it 19th for Jackson Lee there. 2:12.354. Christian Brooks improving up into the 15th spot as well at 2:12.121. Matt Round Garrido up into the 11th position in the number 92. Kohlbecker goes quicker last time by as well. Spike Kohlbecker, a 111.642. Prescott Campbell into pit lane. First driver to call it a day here with a minute to go in qualifying for USF 2000. Race number 2 set to go for 8 a.m. Central Time, bright and early. Campers, you can crack up your coffee, morning beer, whatever is your choice. Mimosa.
You're at the racetrack.
That's it.
No better alarm.
That's
no better alarm than that.
Yeah, I remember my first trip to Mossport, and I was inside Turn 1, got there super late on the Friday night, and the dulcet tones of Jim Martin woke me up in Turn number 1 with, hello Mossport, and that was our good morning Mossport. And, and it's been like that ever since. Love the sounds of the cars in the morning, and I know that you too, everybody out there will, and their campers and tents will light things up for you at 8 o'clock. More drivers peeling off as these ones coming through here, just slipping through for one more lap as the final seconds tick down. Everybody you're seeing, Senchi right now will have not got the checkered flag as of yet. Yeah, the final driver peeling off. Everybody else able to get one more in, including the number 9 of Peter Vodanovic. I think he's the last driver by. Eli Navarro now up into 11th. These are drivers who have gone green this last time by. Christian Brooks into 14th. Bejoy Garg in 18th spot. Jackson Lee 20th. Vodanovic 21st. One more lap still. Capping up qualifying for race number 2. Kiko Porto back-to-back jacks here in qualifying. Does he hold the spot? He's got 2/10 on Nolan Siegel.
And how about Juven Sundaramurthy back in 9th?
Yeah, point leader.
That's big.
Yeah, it is big. Point leader. T-Force drivers looking really good. They've got a setup for these cars. And what a beautiful shot this is at one of the tough corners in this track. Blind crest, turn into the apex of turn number 6 under the Corvette bridge, rolling back on the throttle, and then flat out in these USF 2000 cars through turn number 7.
And that's a full-on 90-degree corner.
That actually is, yes. But then back down the hill.
Yeah.
I love this part of the racetrack. That's one of my favorite parts.
My favorite corner here is turn 8, and I say it every year, every session, that turn 8 is the most underrated corner at this racetrack.
Right beside the kart track too, which I love. All right, folks, this is the final run through the carousel for the drivers here rolling. Kiko Porto still on top. Nobody in the top 10 going green last time by. It's Porto, Siegel, Campbell, D'Orlando, and Pearson. Green 6th, Nepfu 7th, Kohlbecker 8th, Sundaramurthy 9th, and Sykes in 10th.
That would make Nepfu the top rookie, I think, right? In this qualifying?
Indeed it would, yeah.
It's a nice lap for him.
Very nice for Thomas Nepfu. His teammate Spike Kohlbecker at Cape Motorsports right there as well.
Yeah, Spike was 4th this morning, so those two rookies doing a nice job.
Checker flag finally laying down. Indeed, those rookies at Cape Motorsports coming up. As I said, Road America, always that time for a rookie to kind of shine. This is it. Final lap. Not seeing any other drivers potentially going quicker here. Drivers that come up the pit lane being sent straight to the paddock. As drivers coming back down pit lane, counter race right now and working their way into the paddock area. So that'll be it for qualifying.
Well, that's a sight you don't see very often. Cars going the wrong way down pit lane, parking before the release back to the paddock area. And the reason for that is the main paddock gate is likely going to have the safety car and the AMR safety team from IndyCar getting set for our next session, which happens to be some folks we may have heard of before, the NTT IndyCar Series at top of the 4 o'clock hour. May have heard about them before.
This was such a great race last year. Pato Ward trying to get that victory. Felix Rosenquist able to take it away in that particular race. But let's cap things off here right now. Kiko Porto for race number 2 in USF 2000. He qualifies pole. Back-to-back poles for Kiko. Cutting that point lead to 5 markers behind Juven Sundaramurthy. Nolan Siegel ends up second. That'll be the front row. And all D-Force Racing front row. Prescott Campbell and Michael D'Orlando on row number 2. Josh Pearson and Josh Green row 3. I believe they're on the same row in race 1 too, I think. Both Joshes. Thomas Nepfu and Spike Kohlbecker, the 2 rookies for Cape Motorsports on row 4, and Juven Sundaramurthy will be alongside Simon Sykes for Legacy Autosport. Sundaramurthy, of course, the point leader. Eli Navarro, last year's Lucas Oil School of Racing Formula Car Series champion in the scholarship car, number 1 and 11th, alongside Bejoy Garg. Matt Round Garrido and Jace Denmark will be on row 7. Christian Brooks and Dylan Christie on row 8. Eric Evans and Miles Rowe, row 9, Evan Stommer and Jackson Lee on row 10. Row 11, 12, and 13, Peter Vodanovich alongside Billy Fraser. It's an all Kiwi row 11. Trey Burke and Kent Vaccaro on row 12, and Michael Myers, as we said, still repairing the Titus USF 17 for Michael Myers Racing. We'll see him starting in 25th, both races here today. Eric, that caps things off for the road to Indy. 7 sessions on track here on Friday. USF 2000 will race at 11:15 tomorrow morning. Indy Pro 2000 and Indy Lights still to qualify, though, 8:45 and 9:20 respectively tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. And pleasure as always on this Fast Friday. That's what qualifying day is all about. Go fast. And we'll see you again tomorrow, Rob. And thanks for being with us, Greg. We've got an interesting rest of our day on tap. We've got the NTT IndyCar Series coming up at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, as well as Radical Cup.